Hello and welcome back to Full of a Took. We are here for episode 7 to talk about the illustrious and amazing chapter in the House of Tom Bombadil, which I thought was a really fun chapter, personally. I don't know how you guys felt.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
I was not a fan.
Not a fan? Loved it?
Nope. The previous chapter that we covered was chapter 6, The Old Forest. So in this chapter, our heroes are finally embarking on their actual journey. So they've left the Shire and they're now cutting through the Old Forest. The Old Forest is known to be a strange and dangerous place for travelers. In fact, as soon as they depart, the path in front of them disappears and the trees start to move around and they kind of don't know where to go. Eventually, they do find their path, and they see a lot of interesting things like the bonfire glade, an open hilltop. At this point, the forest completely blocks their path northward, and they're really forced to travel east towards the worst part of the forest, the Withywindle River. Then they encounter a willow tree with bad intentions and must be rescued by a very odd singing character named Tom Bombadil. The chapter ends with Tom inviting them back to his house to stay safe for the night.
It's in this moment that when we're exiting the last chapter right before this chapter that we're discussing begins, I felt very happy. Like, oh, they got a place to stay that's safe. And then very quickly, once this chapter began, I was not actually sure if everything was going to be okay.
I agree completely.
I couldn't pick up on the vibes of it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't know. Maybe this guy's not a good guy. Maybe he's bad. I don't know. But it was interesting.
We're about to get some mixed vibes.
It's that FAE bullshit. No, really. It's like, that's like you get these weird vibes because he's weird.
I kind of love it, though. I felt at home. I do not know what that says about me.
RJ identifies with the Fae.
Yes. I was like, this is where I live now. No, I'm just kidding.
If this part had been written like now by a contemporary writer, Tom Bombadil would be like some fucking thirst trap.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
All right, so why don't we dive into chapter 7? Let's do a rundown of this whole thing and dive in because I know there's a lot of hot takes on this.
Yeah.
Okay. Tom Bombadil is
The master.
Strong start.
so Tom Bombadil is, if any character in Tolkien can be controversial, it's Tom Bombadil. And it's for the most boring reasons. But we're going to talk about all that stuff because that's the whole thing. Like everything else is kind of straightforward and it's more about lore and story. This dude is just a whole bunch of unanswered questions. So when he happens upon the hobbits as they're being murdered by a willow tree and saves them and maybe sings them, Pied Pipers them through the forest. It's getting dark out. They're ready to like give up and get murdered by trees again. And then they see the house and they get to the door and the door opens and this golden light spills out and it's warm and it's happy. And there's this woman and she's like, hi, by the way, I am Goldberry, the river daughter, and they are just dumbstruck as one would be. And she welcomes them in and like makes them comfortable. And there's just like, where's Tom? Tom's out back singing to the ponies, getting them all set up. And they've got this weird situation, right? They've wandered like into what feels like the witch's house, like it's too nice, like it's too friendly, like they just went from like being murdered by a tree to whatever this is, this nice place that's all happy and safe and just weird vibes. And so Frodo asks a very straightforward question because you can't be rude to your host and say, who are you? But what you can say is, who's Tom? To which they get the very level answer and reasonable answer of, well, he is. Right. That's what you want to hear. That's what you want.
Clarifies everything.
It's the perfect answer. You're going to get murdered. It's fine. And then, okay, that's not really what Frodo wanted. So he follows up. He's persistent. He says, okay, but like, no, really though, but like, who is Tom? Tom is Tom, but who is Tom? Oh, well, Tom is the master. Capital M. No problem. Master of the house, master of the forest, master of fate, master of puppets. We don't know. It's a song. They might know it.
That's what he's singing?
Maybe to the ponies. Would that be less weird or more weird?
I don't know.
Right?
I love it, though. I'm here for it.
Yeah, so he is the master, and he has no fear. And in comes the master. He's done singing to the ponies, and he suggests they get dinner. And Goldberry's like, maybe the hobbits should wash first. Like, maybe they're not ready. Good point. They're probably filthy with fear. Yeah.
Sam a little stinky.
Well, Frodo got a bath.
That's true. And Mary shit himself. Swallowed by a tree. Yeah.
So they get shown to like a nice chamber with thick mattresses and flagstones and rushes, and it's all very creature comfort based. And it is not, you're not presented with feelings about the place. You're just presented with what it is. So it's up to us to insert our own sense of unease into what's happening. But it's nice, and they wash up, and things are fine. And they come to dinner, and the table gets set for them in rapid fashion, and it's good food and like wholesome fare and very plain but sturdy kind of stuff. And they only have water to drink. But it touches their hearts like and their minds like wine would. And suddenly they're all singing. It's like more natural than talking. Which I cannot imagine a worse dinner. So anyway, it's this big singing dinner, right? They're all singing, they're all having a very great time. And then, as the book puts it, until Tom commands silence. And all the singing stops and dinner's over. And they clear the table, and he takes them to a room, and they set up a fire. Goldberry says, "Good night, folks," and leaves. And it's just them and Tom, like, sitting in this dark room in front of a fireplace. And Tom's like, "Heed no nightly noises. Don't fear anything." And so they just kind of sit. And Frodo is compelled to ask again another, I think, reasonable question. "Tom, did you hear me calling for help when I was screaming like a child with no sense of what to do?" "No, I was singing. Tom was singing. Tom didn't hear you over Tom singing. It was chance alone that led me to you, if chance can be a thing, basically." So the hobbits were saved by fate or something. Or something. Plot armor, maybe. Tom Bombadil points out that it's not really a mystery because in this forest, all roads lead to Old Man Willow. He is a pervasive and pernicious evil, and he has dominion enough over the trees of the forest and the ways to basically lay traps for anything he wants, and he pulls everything to the river. They wouldn't be the first hobbits. They probably won't be the last hobbits, but Tom managed to save these ones. And then that's kind of it. It's like, okay, well, time for bed, guys. Let's go to sleep. Because they start to ask more questions, or Frodo starts to ask more questions about the forest. And Merry and Pippin are like, absolutely the fuck not. Not now. I want to go to bed. We can talk in the morning.
No scary stories at night.
Right. Right. Again, with this.
Yes, I thought
Again.
about you when I was reading this.
And so even Tom Bombadil's like, yeah, go to sleep. We'll talk about it tomorrow. And so they all go to bed in these nice warm mattresses and down pillows and all this fun stuff, and all have really weird dreams. Frodo dreams this scene, which we can get into, but it's like it's a very vivid, action-oriented dream that like means nothing to him, and he just kind of like wakes up in the dark. And Pippin dreams about being like eaten by trees again, swallowed and crunched, and he's in the dark and all is unwell. And then he remembers, don't fear the noises of the night. Nothing gets into Tom's house. And then Mary dreams about being drowned, which is always fun.
Yeah.
And then Sam has no dreams. Sam sleeps contentedly, if a log could say to be contented.
I've slept that way.
I have found
fine.
you that way. At least one time I have checked to make sure you were breathing.
I wish I could sleep that deep.
It's
You
pretty
have.
great.
When we finished in the basement watching TV, and I try to get you to go to bed, and you are a dead person,
That's true.
and
Yeah.
I drag you by the leg up the steps.
That's true. I guess I wish I could sleep that deeply in my bedroom.
It helps.
Yeah.
It does help.
In our bed.
So, they all have these weird dreams except Sam, who sleeps perfectly well because Sam deserves it, honestly. And they wake up to rain and rain and rain. And Frodo is kind of relieved because he's been dreading on a level leaving this house and going back out into the forest. But if it's raining, we can't go anywhere. That's crazy. Well, I guess we'll just have to stay. And basically, Tom agrees. After he prances his way through the rainstorm, comes in perfectly dry, except for his boots. I guess you got to make, some sacrifices. And he declares it's Goldberry's washing day and the autumn cleansing. So buckle up, kids. It's story time. And so he sits them down and tells them all the forest lore. So now the hobbits have a much better feeling of all the living things, all the kind and unkind, the cruel and the murderous, and he suggests that things are happy in this wood, but we have no evidence of it. And the hobbits get a feel for the world in which Tom lives. And he talks about the secret hearts of trees and how they are dark and full of hate. And how Old Man Willow is this malicious heartbeat of the forest. And how he is old, but his strength is green.
Scary.
Oh, I like that.
That was such a great line.
This is the old forest. This is the heart of an ancient place, which is now gone. All that's left are these old trees and their awful memories. And the barrows to the north.
Whites.
Yeah, the Barrows and the Barrow Whites, and tell stories about the little kings that would live in the hills and fight their little wars and bury their dead and hoard their gold and do all these awful things, and how they lived up there and they died up there and they made their little kingdoms, and then something dark awoke in the hills up there, and so now the Barrow Whites move and wander and haunt.
Can we define white right now?
Think an animated, like a ghost, basically.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
thought that would be a good thing to point out.
WIGHT.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, like a revenant, a ghost.
That makes sense. Barrow Town?
Downs.
Towns?
Barrow Downs.
Downs.
Yeah, they saw it from the hill in the last chapter and they were like, that's a bad place. Do not go there.
Okay.
A barrow is basically a hill you build over a grave.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not like a small hill. These would be like, think like stone and copper age pyramids. Say like this, if a civilization could build things, what they really built was just enormous hills, like a pyramid without style.
Yes, totally. And the whites lived in
In the bottoms of
the
those.
bottom of that. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So they get talking about the barrows, and all the hobbits are immediately distracted by like, oh fuck, we know about the barrows. Even in the Shire, we know about the Barrow Downs, and those are bad places. And then they all kind of like zone back into the conversation, and Tom has moved to things beyond memory. Like he's telling stories about the ancient seas and before the oceans were bent and before the elven sires walked, Tom was alone. Before there was a Dark Lord, there was Tom. Is that not just a jarring name for this, right?
Love it.
Right? Like I got
Yeah,
some-
because you're expecting it to be like a cool fancy name, and it's just Tom.
yeah.
Which I wonder, did J.R.R.R. Tolkien have an older brother named Tom that he named him after?
No, I think Jert just knows a name.
Jert.
Oh, I'm so glad you laughed. But I feel like I've done a bad thing by introducing that to you.
I also think that's his chosen name for himself.
Jert?
Oh, Jert's going to completely evolve.
No, Tom. No, like Tom Bombadil. I think he named himself, and he chose Tom.
It's a silly name for a silly person. That makes sense. Patrick, what have you done?
I didn't do anything. Oh,
it down.
or maybe I don't know.
Is your mug sweating?
A bit.
I'm sweating.
Look at it, it's wet. The whole bottom's wet.
Oh God.
That must have been a very cold water you put in there.
Judgy.
Your water's extra cold.
Definitely.
7% cold.
Your
cold.
water would show mountains turning blue at the right temperature.
So enough with the merry and odd caperings of Tom. No, I'm just kidding.
No, well, if we cut the mad caperings of Tom, we're done.
Yeah, this
Like, that's
chapter
it.
doesn't
But
exist.
So anyway, it's like he's talking about these ancient things the hobbits have no concepts for. He's just talking and he's saying these things, which, like, as somebody who knows a little bit about the lore and has read the rest of the stories and everything, and like Tom is like absolutely just like giving you the tip of the iceberg of these amazing stories. But these hobbits are like, we don't know nothing.
Yeah.
It's like if I were to say, like, I knew if I had the key, if I told you I had the keys to Fort Knox and I knew where Jimmy Hoffa was buried, but you didn't know, like, what's a Jimmy Hoffa?
Yeah. I did see The Irishman, so I do know who that is.
Right. Right. But if you didn't know any of that and I said I could get us into Fort Knox, you'd be like, I don't want to go to Kentucky or or wherever it is. Fort Knox.
That was in Tennessee.
Knoxville.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Fort
Oh
Knoxville.
my God.
Fort Knoxville with Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash, Knoxville.
That actually works.
But so, he's telling all these amazing stories, and the hobbits are just like. So Frodo tries again. He's like, Tom, who are you? Pause. Just please bring us back. Who is Tom? I am eldest. I was here before all things. I was here before the oceans were bent. I was here. And it goes on and on like this. And like Tom does the reasonable thing. Who are you? And so Frodo finds himself wanting to tell Tom Bombadil all about what he's about and his hopes and his fears. He tells Tom more than he tells Gandalf.
Yeah.
Tom actually already knew a lot about him already,
That's right.
which was real creepy.
Because Tom's got two best friends, and they are Farmer Maggot and Gilder. So, like, Tom is plugged into stuff. So he knew that the hobbits were doing something. He knew approximately where they were going. And, maybe that's what drew him to Old Man Willow at that time, right? Because, like, if all roads lead to Old Man Willow, there you have it.
Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't chance, and maybe it was. Maybe Tom just likes playing games with little lost things before he eats them. We don't know yet. Because then he does something awful, and he says, oh, so you have the ring? May I? And so Frodo, sure, why not? Surprises himself and says, here you go. Here's the precious ring. Tom goes, no, that's fun. This is great. Pops it on his finger. And nothing happens. And he's just like, yeah. And then does a little trick and like every shitty street magician you've ever given something to, just
Pulls it out of Frodo's ear.
He was like, whoa, 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 whoa.
what ancient evil is this? Is this your curse?
I would have loved that, actually.
Oh my God.
Well, like Frodo does it. He gets it back.
I've
and he's
taken the
like,
ring from you. It's in my pocket. That's the trick. I stole it.
It's mine now.
It's mine.
Get out. Well, like the thing is like Frodo is like has I think a very real reaction of like, is this mine? Is this the real deal?
Yeah.
Is this the same ring I gave him?
And he checks it out, and finally he's so uneasy that it's just in the middle of conversation he pops it on and disappears. And I think Mary notices.
Yep.
And just like pretends like nothing happened. Nobody else really knows what's up. So Frodo is delighted. Oh, it's my ring. Well, I'm gonna go. I don't know what his thinking was. I'm gonna go snoop. I'm gonna go have a giggle. I don't know why, but he tries to leave the room. And Tom Bombadil's like, whoa, Frodo, chill, buddy. Come back. And so Tom makes it painfully clear that he can see Frodo while he's invisible.
Yes.
The ring means nothing to him. He is eldest. He is master.
Yeah.
What does this mean? And then he's like, well, if you're so quick to go, tomorrow's going to be a good day for it, but we should talk about your plan. Head north through the forest. Don't go to the downs. You'll hit the east road. Just go north. You don't ever pass Barrow except on the west side. It's bad if you don't. Also, I'm going to teach each of you a little sing-song. So if you have trouble in the next 24 hours, you get one free call. And it's like, how,
His safety call.
yeah. Say my name and I appear. Why have you summoned Tom Bombadil here?
But did anyone else notice it was 3 times and Beetlejuice has just come out? So I was like, oh, it's like Tom Bombadil, Tom Bombadil, Tom Bombadil.
I would legitimately choose Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
I mean, I also love Beetlejuice, so I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. God. But like then as soon as he like, all right, guys, you got it down. You're going to do fine. Good night. And that's the chapter.
What an interesting chapter it was. A lot to unpack here. Anybody have the initial thoughts that they want to jump into? Should we approach it sort of linearly from the beginning?
Maybe, because I think once again with Tom, it's so much to unpack, and he kind of moves not in not a straightforward way. So it's kind of harder when we go all
he
back.
dances.
My initial
If you
thought
will.
with this
Hate it.
chapter, well, maybe not initial. Once I finally got through it, I kind of had the opposite feeling that I did from the last chapter, where I was like, I loved the writing. It was so descriptive and vivid. And this one, I'm like, there was too much description of things that maybe didn't matter. Or I don't know. I found myself like having to go back and restart paragraphs because I just stopped paying attention. It was like,
Interesting.
it was just like too many words for not enough content.
I feel like Tolkien wrote this chapter and then used it as a guide for how not to write the Rivendell chapter.
It felt like filler almost.
Yeah, I mean, let's address it. I think that's a great starting off point. Why does this chapter exist? Realistically, why did this need to happen?
So I have a quick thought.
Okay.
I'll give you.
You
I'll
look
give you
like
a
you're about to burst.
Yes, I want to get
so
this
much
in. I
to
just want to get this in. So I want to go back to this thing where I feel like, in a nutshell, I feel like if there's a purpose to Tom Bombadil, which I'm not certain there is, but if there's a purpose to him in the narrative, it's to show the reader that there are no rules that we know.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like we don't know what the stakes are. We don't know what the players are. We don't know what the rules are. Everything was fine inside the Shire, and then they left, and things got bad, and they got weird, and that's just how it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of it, is that Tom is this, like, on the one hand, he's a shot across the bow for us as readers, and on the other hand, he is this, like, incredibly infuriating, like, lore cock tease. I hate it.
Jesus. All right, why don't we let
hate
RJ
it.
talk?
It's so interesting for me to hear this, because I had such a different experience with this chapter, and specifically with Tom Bombadil. And maybe I'm just like reading too into the words, or you've read this way more than I have. But I see it as like, it's so simple, it's profound, and he's not a god, but he's almost something that can't be explained because our mortal minds can't understand it. And so when it says, who is Tom Bombadil? And it says master of wood, water, and hill. And then they keep asking questions. And then Goldberry just says, is the master. He has no fear. And then later on, the first thing he really helps them and directs them to is saying, like, he no nightly noise, fear no gray willow. He keeps saying, do not have fear in your heart. And then later on, he can't be affected by the ring, because I think the ring pulls, and all these bad things keep pulling off of fear. And he is the master because he does not give fear power over him, so it has no power over him.
Is he like
he has
courage,
power over it?
the embodiment of courage?
I think he's like a god type philosophical character that's like figured out, like,
Because it does take courage to sing everything you want to communicate.
No, but
I
I just
called
feel like
him-
he has this it's actually really deep and beautiful, and I learned a lot. And like, it was so funny, it like clicked for me when he was telling them not to do that, and then when the nightmares were coming, it's like he knew it was going to happen. And instead of being like Gandalf, being like, I can't tell you anything, he's like, I'm going to give you the breadcrumbs to succeed.
Kind of like old magic, right?
Yes.
Like, and he feels like a fairy tale.
I described him in my notes as
Yeah.
Right? Kind of
Tom
like
is
that?
an ageless spirit of the forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is
And then I started wondering, is he actually a personification of the old forest? Which kind of leans towards my feeling that he is not a safe character, because the old forest is described as not a safe place. So if he is the center, if the Withywindle River and the area where he lives is described as the worst part of the old forest, what does that say about Tom?
Right. Does he just get to blame everything on Old Man Willow?
I don't know. If he is the master of the forest, can he not control Old Man Willow?
Well, it definitely has like an old, like sort of biblical feel.
Yeah.
Because he was there from the beginning of time. Like
Yeah.
before there were stars. He didn't create, he's not saying he's the creator.
Yeah.
But he's been there since the beginning of where they are. He didn't have names for the stuff. That's how old he is.
I don't know if I believe that.
I do.
Well, he
You think he's bullshitting them?
He says he's the eldest.
Sure, he can say it, but
then how would he know what he
knows? The stars were not yet created, and
Yeah.
the creator of this universe was like, you know what? First things first, Tommy boy,
So okay, so
and plopped this thing in.
so
That's an interesting thought, but I think it's more likely that Tom is not actually anything, but the embodiment of something else that can become other life forms or physical beings. Like, I don't know. Does Tom even exist?
would it change your understanding of Tom Bombadil if I said like the first thing that like the creator deity of Tolkien's mythology did was create song?
Ooh.
It was just song. And he created beings to sing as a choir with him. And then they began to sing about things like stars, about things like an earth, about things. And as they sang about these things, they sort of came into being. And then slowly, as the song expanded and grew, it created a world.
I think some of that sounds so cool. And I think some of that also is like, how are you singing about things that you don't know exist and then making them exist?
You could make something up.
Like
Yeah.
if they were like, oh, it'd be so wild if the night had lights built into it. And then boop, all the stars appeared. You know what I mean?
What's on the dark side of the moon?
Nothing.
What could be there?
A book.
All right, sing a song. Now there's a book.
But they don't know what that even is. You know?
You don't know. Well,
Well, it's not that literal either. It's like a
metaphor.
it's a metaphor. It's so deep.
It's a bombadil.
It's like the Big Bang of the Tolkien universe.
Yeah. And so
Yeah,
that's,
but they
that's
just
what
dropped
I
the
feel like
bass.
he embodies though, is like this
The big
godlike
Tom.
fable or fairy tale. And I think he is like a positive force. Like I think he is helpful and here to help them.
There's definitely arguments for and against that.
Yeah.
That I felt going through this.
Mm-hmm.
One of
Absolutely.
the first things, on one of the first times we run into him in this chapter, I had a take. I don't know if it's a hot take or not.
Sure.
But there's talking about while he's tending to the ponies, I guess, they're hearing him singing. They're hearing these repeated words, these lines that he's repeating over and over again, and they're about himself. Why is this man singing about himself to himself?
Do you have
without
the line?
an audience?
Like,
Every now and again, they caught among many a dairy doll and a merry doll and a ring-a-ding-dillo the repeated words, "Old Tom Bombadil is a merry fellow, bright blue his jacket is, and his boots are yellow." That's a very strange thing to be singing to yourself.
yeah.
And so I got very strong NPC energy from like a video game when there's just somebody standing off to the side just saying the same thing over and over again.
That's really
Yeah.
Like they might offer you a side quest, but
Well, let's talk about him being an NPC real quick, because like he has that vibe, and I think that's for a reason.
okay.
Because like RJ, you were talking about how he is this old, kind of powerful, kind of disconnected thing. Like,
Definitely, yeah. And I feel like when he tells the story of the Ents when they were gods and now they're stuck here on Earth, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself, so we'll
it's like
we can
Old
talk-
Man Willow.
Yeah, we can talk about that in depth when we get to that point of the story.
Is Old Man Willow an ent, by the way? Or is that a specific kind
Well,
of tree thing?
It's a different thing.
It's a different
okay.
thing.
Old Man
The
Willow
Ents
is
are-
his,
The ents have the faces, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Old Man Willow is his own thing,
Yeah.
but he is ancient and powerful and malicious.
Got it.
Right.
He's a big boss.
And
Yes.
so when he was talking about him and them, I feel like it was also, and he said how they changed and evolved as the world grew and all this stuff and time passed. I think so does Tom Bombadil. Like, I do agree with Laura. I don't think it's the form he was always in. And I feel like this is how, with the way the world is now, the form that the people around him can take. And I would almost be not surprised if different beings he comes across sees him differently. Like this jolly man that loves to eat and drink with a beard, yellow boots, and kind of a Gandalfish description at first, like with the blue and the hat. was to make them at peace and make them feel comfortable. And so maybe an elf would see him differently versus the tree. And so I think that
can be nefarious too.
but I think it's positive though. I think he's actually a good thing.
I
He's
don't,
just old.
I don't think he's a good thing or a bad thing, but he's powerful and I think indifferent
True, it must
to the world
transcends,
around him. Because the impression I got about this whole thing, right, is you read through, and specifically it comes up with like he married like the daughter of the river, right? So you get this kind of weird elemental vibe. Like,
So what is she?
right? She feels like some kind of like weird nature goddess.
Yeah.
Because she sings, she has her autumn cleansing, she sings her rain songs, and once it's done, she's like, the world has new water, basically. Like the forest has new waters, and her clothes change. Don't Tom's clothes change too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, is she just like ushering through the seasons? Is this,
That was
is
what
that
I
like
got
their,
from it.
right?
She's
I
like
also-
Persephone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also, like, as I was reading through and it was talking about her singing the rain song and doing the autumn cleansing, I was like, is she singing about the rain or is she making it rain?
Right.
And then
Right.
that sort of, maybe I just watched too many horror movies, but I was like, is she making it rain so they can't leave?
I
You
took it as
too
the
much
opposite.
Midsummer.
I took it as the opposite. She, after it rained, the first sentence that describes it says that the forest was veiled.
Loser. Sorry.
So as soon as she made it rain, it said behind its deep curtain, the forest was completely veiled. So the forest could not be seen, nor could anything in the forest see out of the veil of like mist and rain. So I think she was actually protecting
good
them from a really angry old willow. Because also before that, they were told not to leave the house, no matter what they heard, no matter what creaking twigs, that nothing can enter the house besides starlight, and I forget the other thing.
And, like,
moonlight
wind off
and
the hill or something.
But that the trees couldn't come in,
Yeah.
but if they went out, they could get in the magic song again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's actually doing that to protect them from a pissed off tree.
Yeah. And importantly, Tom mentioned that no one can hear you scream.
Oh my God.
I don't know. The first thing that like got me nervous was when they walked into the room and there were 4 mattresses waiting for them.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have enough time to go home and
So
set up 4 mattresses.
it's almost like, to quote another trope in fantasy, like not a room of requirement, but I'm going to use that because everyone understands that here, is that he can sort of guess what his guest is going to need and the room changes. So it was 4 hobbits, 4 perfectly sized little beds.
Like-
If it was just one man, would have been a man-sized bed.
or somehow he manipulated the forest to bring them to him and he knew they were coming and he
Right.
knew that the thing was going to happen with the willow and he just so happened to be there.
Right.
Everything has a perfectly rational explanation, I think for the most part, but it really could go either way.
Yeah. It's also interesting because right after that happens, they talk about he says that he will no longer be going down to that area.
Yeah, for at least a year until his wife needs to take a bath.
Yeah. Her annual
River cleansing.
But it's just interesting because, in the moment when Frodo's essentially saying, like, you have saved us, he then goes and says, like, well, essentially, that's enough interfering and interacting with, like, your realm or the realms or the tides of fate or whatever. I have already done more than I should have done, so I will not go down there. And whoever Big Willow takes,
Old Mr. Willow.
old Mr. Willow he takes him, So it's just that he went from being kind of fairly positive to kind of being like antagonistic almost.
I think he's totally aloof.
Yeah, maybe.
I thought the nightmares also seemed like just a terrible omen that they were in that house and then those nightmares happened.
Except to Sam.
Except to Sam, which, obviously he's a Labrador Retriever, so.
Well, which speaking of those nightmares, I'm jumping to a big conclusion. But
Okay.
does anyone else think that Frodo somehow, in a dream with no light, which I love that sentence, somehow saw what was going down with Gandalf and sort of had this weird telekinesis moment where he was living through what Gandalf was enduring?
Well, we don't know where Gandalf is at the moment.
We don't really know
possible.
what the dream was.
Like I
Yeah.
couldn't tell if it was Frodo was seeing it through Gandalf's eyes and seeing what was happening to Gandalf, or if he was just seeing where he is, but he doesn't understand because he's never been there, hasn't seen those people before.
But it's also not the first time it's happened.
Yeah, he had a dream about the sea.
I
Yeah.
do love that the ring gives whoever has it like the ability to see
Horrible anxiety.
divine the
Nightmares.
future. You can actually. I think that's really interesting.
Let's dive into that real fast because you bring up an interesting thing. What could the sea have been?
Was it just the sea? He also saw a tower.
A tower and the sea and like
sea there. Okay.
It is going to
don't
come
know.
up.
Okay, if it'll come up, it'll come up. That's fine.
I really enjoy
Well, like,
thinking
there's
about
a-
reading this without having any background context.
well, there's like there's white hair and a staff and like
It's very
And the
wizardy.
eagles.
and
But
like
you also know there's an
winged
evil
nightmare
wizard.
monsters.
And I apologize. I'm going to be saying this all throughout this chapter, but once again, fear. Like Frodo's was a fear. Well, it was probably a premonition, but also I feel like he really fears Gandalf not coming back.
Premonition, that's the
Yeah,
word.
yeah.
And
Fear
so
is the mind killer.
His is like that. So somehow the magic, the nefarious, being that's
You
casting
really
this.
are the most fearful bastard in Middle Earth.
I just want to get this out because then we need to move on.
In the East Farthing.
No, whatever like evil entity is like making them have these nightmares. Maybe it's the willow. I think it all delves on their fear. So Frodo's fearful. I think of not only the journey to come, but what if Gandalf doesn't come back? Where is Gandalf? So it plays on that. And then for the next one, it's like Pippin back in the tree. Because it also shows his depth of his soul and who he is. Like, he's most terrified of the thing he just endured. And then Mary's is drowning. And then Sam has no nightmares because I don't think he really is driven by any fear. He's steadfast, loyal, loving, compassionate. And yeah, sometimes he's
Driven by duty.
Yeah. And so they can't even affect him. So once again, like,
I
if
don't
you
know
don't
if
let
I would
fear,
describe them being driven by fear, though.
well, not driven by fear, excuse me. I mean, like, easily.
They have anxiety.
Yeah. But Sam doesn't really. Yeah.
Yeah. Sam has not grown up yet.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? I feel like it was very telling of them as characters with this, like who was affected and how, like what their nightmares were. I thought that was a lot of great character building in a really unique and entertaining way.
Yeah. I feel like they didn't understand the assignment when they were told not to fear.
Right.
Only Sam.
It really just reminds me of like when they're in the house, they break the bread, they drink the wine, they go on this hallucinogenic journey to fucking open their mind and go have this vision quest. And to me, it's like that is just Tom challenging them. It's a challenge. Can you overcome this first task, which
That's a
is
nice lesson,
to
yeah.
free your mind?
That's fun.
That's how I saw that.
That's awesome.
So then,
And Sam was the only one that was able to beat quest number 1.
Wow.
how does Frodo fare though?
Frodo, I think, is weakened by the ring, and he's susceptible to fear, which when he started the quest was not really susceptible to fear.
That is true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like they are learning real mortal fear. Right? I don't think they quite appreciate how much Farmer Maggot saved them or how much old Gaffer saved them or how much Gilder saved them.
Well, especially Merry and Pippin, who, well, not even so much Pippin because he kind of was a bitch, but Merry, this is the first time Merry actually is like seeing, not just seeing because he actually sees, but the first time Merry is like experiencing what everybody else has been fearing. Like the whole other time, everybody, all the other 3 of them have been like, oh, there's a legitimate thing happening here that's kind of dangerous. And this whole time, Mary's been like, I got it. We're fine. I'll lead us into the forest. I know you guys like don't.
I don't believe those stories.
And
I'll
what
be
should-
the tough one.
That's why I love that his fear was drowning because he's such a control freak and he couldn't control his way out of that.
And,
You know what I mean?
and he's from Buckland. They're supposed to be
Yeah.
okay with water.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, if anybody would, it would be Mary because I feel like he's the only one who's capable of putting on a brave face right now.
Right.
But what I also like is that all of their like brushes with death and peril have like it's been escalating steadily from like weirdos asking questions about them to weird things on the road to like if this thing finds us there will be bad things.
Yeah.
But now is like in addition to the first time Mary's been with them when something really terrible's happened, this I feel like would be the first time if you sat them down and you said, "Did you almost die?" This would be the first time they would say yes.
Yes, they're now officially in mortal peril.
Well,
Yeah.
Frodo was being actively murdered. Pippin had been eaten. Mary was being told by a tree that he was going to be murdered.
Yeah.
Sam was starting fires
And gonna gnaw
taking control of the situation
and rounding up ponies.
and
Badass.
threatening to gnaw the tree with his teeth.
Going back to the nightly noises thing, I'm just like,
slowly adding points to my thesis that this is an ominous situation.
What does the fox
He
say?
says, forget the nightly noises before they go to bed. So he knows that his house is a scary place and people have bad dreams in it. Or that there's something going on that makes people have bad dreams.
I think he knows Willow's coming for them.
Ooh.
I think he knows he pissed Willow off. He basically took his feed. He took his prey. And he wants
True.
it. He had a taste of those hobbits.
But
He
the
wants
willow was
them.
only one of the dreams.
No, but I'm not saying that that's the dreams. I'm saying the nightly noises is the willow trying to ensnare them to go outside.
Oh.
So he's saying, don't listen to it. I pissed some shit off in the forest. It's coming. But he doesn't want to say it so blandly so he doesn't scare them because then they would have fear.
Right.
It's like this vicious cycle of they can't have fear, but they should, but they can't.
Yeah, yeah. You should absolutely be afraid, but you need to swallow that deep. And they're like, not a problem.
Yeah. He's like, if you succumb to this, it will destroy you. But also sleep tight.
Yeah. Well, like, was I the only one who was like really kind of like waiting to hear like what was at the windows or what they were going to find or see?
I just pictured the Wizard of Oz trees like being weird with like long fingers, like Edward Scissorhands.
Bleh.
No one else?
But
No.
well, no, I mean, I think that's fair, especially in the old forest. But I was expecting for like yet another weird flavor of horror to be like they were gonna like wake up from like Frodo's gonna wake up from his dream and look out and there's gonna be things standing in the moonlight,
Oh God!
like just peering in the
that
windows
thing
at
that was
them.
crawling after them.
Yeah, like something, anything, like. But instead, it was just bad dreams.
I wanted there to be a flash of lightning and a figure stood in a window and they couldn't see what it was, but something was there.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I wanted it to be.
Lobelia.
Yeah. yeah.
With the dirty dishes
The
and
rattle of spoons.
Their fingers.
So I had a question for everybody.
Ew.
It talks about a rainy smell, and I was curious what does everybody imagine or what comes to mind with a rainy smell?
Oh, there's a word for it.
I don't know how to describe it, and I've been actually struggling with this most of my life because one of my favorite scents in the world, like if I could choose only one candle to have a favorite scent, it'd be the smell right before it rains. It's so fresh and in a good way ripe. Like it's like the green is so just new, and then there's like a dew, like the smell of dew in the air, and something else I can't put a finger on, and that's kind of what.
It's like an earthy smell.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
earthy, but in a clean, very refreshing, awesome way.
Because when you think about rain and all the water gets sucked up and into the cloud, then all of the flavors and the nuances and the distinct smells of the things that the water was on rises with it. And then when it comes down, maybe you get some of that, you know?
Like
Little floral.
ozone and
Sure, but I mean, just anything like trees, plants, grass, all of them have distinct smells.
pollen.
Yeah.
Well, what I like is in Philly, after a good rain, it no longer smells like piss.
Right.
True.
And right before it rains, it really smells like this.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it might be the pee coming down. So
I love
I
that
guess that's
city.
what I was aiming at. Is it's inevitably pee.
So if there was an ageless spirit of Philadelphia,
Oh God.
what would it be?
Benjamin
I actually
Franklin.
just answered my own question in my head.
It's either Ben Franklin's ancient ass trying to like grift you, or it's just gritty.
It's gritty.
I think, like Tom Bombadil, at this point, Benjamin Franklin would be timeless and ageless, so he would have become gritty. Like it's
Yeah.
like gritty is Benjamin Franklin, just still here.
Wait, so are we going to
gritty is the final form.
no, we got to reimagine this chapter. We're in the house of Benjamin Franklin, and Greedy answers the door.
Wait, Benjamin Franklin is singing the songs. Gritty is the river.
Yeah.
The
Oh
my
daughter
God.
of the
Yeah.
river.
No, he lives down the
saying
river.
nothing and just
That's why he just keeps
Just
repeating his
singing
name.
through the rain.
just gesturing inside.
And he goes and he just rips the tree limb off and beats it with it. Like that is gritty.
Everything makes so
Yeah.
much more sense now. Just had to
We
put it in the
clarified
right
that up.
context.
Okay, we figured it out. Tom Bombadil is gritty.
Yeah, there's that lightning strike
We got
outside,
it.
and it's Greedy dancing in the rain. Whispering
They're all
secrets.
hearing things in the night, and the lightning flashes in the window. It's just the Philly fanatic staring in the window.
So fun.
Yeah. Oh my.
That was a great
God.
question.
I got a little concerned when he started telling stories and then Question mark? Maybe a couple of days and nights passed?
Oh, yeah.
What the heck was that? Well, because
Yeah.
they're like, oh, they were under his spell of his stories. And then it was actually like, well, maybe it's been a week since they ate last. Oh, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, they're in this
Very weird.
this weird place where time and I mean he's like eons old. Like time stands still under his power, and he's master, so he can control everything around him if he wants. But he's very, and this is where I think he could be more of a dick, but he's actually really sweet and fun and kind of crazy in a good way. And he's just telling them stories, and I think accidentally get it all done. They're just time stopped for them. It's like when you like in some of the fantasy tropes of someone goes to a portal and it's been like 2 years in our time, but it was a day there. That's kind of what happened. And that's how my mind like made sense of that line.
He was like baiting them with his stories. To
I don't
stay
think on
there.
purpose, or maybe he was saving them
I
from
think clearly on purpose.
from
You
more
think
evil.
he was not on purpose telling them stories?
Well, he was definitely trying to educate them.
He was
yes.
dancing full routines in between.
Oh my God, he
every
was.
song. I mean, in between every
You're
song.
saying he interpretive danced his stories?
Yeah,
No,
it says that.
No, after. Like with dinner and stuff. But no. At the fire, really?
What page?
In the middle of his stories, he would just get up and dance.
Yeah, he did. He did a lot of leaping
oh,
and hopping.
no, he did.
And he didn't even finish
Oh
the
my
story. He
God.
would just walk away in the middle of the story. She was baiting them
This is like
to
what it's-
just be stuck there. So in a way, he was. Anybody?
Gritty?
The masturbator.
Oh.
Yep, that was good.
I
Good one.
set it up perfectly. Nobody.
Nobody wanted to go there.
well,
But
speaking
it
of,
also it adds to my theory that like between keeping them there for however many days or nights with this story and making it rain so that they couldn't leave, it feels kind of like he's trying to keep them there until
Yeah.
somebody
something
shows
passes.
up. Yeah, something else happens. Maybe he's keeping them there for the Black Riders.
I don't
I
know.
think
It's-
against. I think he's
there's so
protecting
much
them from
it
the
could
willow,
be.
from the whites.
He's kind of pulling again, and I absolutely fucking hate that I have to keep doing this, but it reminds me of a thing in Harry Potter.
Hey, it's okay because you know who was first.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Why does it feel so much like, yeah? Why?
Luna Lovegood's father stalls them at the house, and it just does this in the one book because he's called the Death Eaters to come get them. And I'm sitting here
Wait,
going,
what?
Did I spoil Harry Potter for you?
No, I forgot that Luna Lovegood's father?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
So you could interpret this either way.
So I was picking up major vibes from that scene in this scene and going, I like totally I say that to agree with you that I felt like
Yeah, they
we were
took
waiting
Luna.
on somebody to come
Made a deal
bust
to get her
through the
back.
door who was terrible. You know what I mean?
But
And
he
then
didn't
they
make a
would-
deal. I think he's almost like master of the universe, and so without trying to make him God, because there is no like God in that setting in this world. But I mean, there is, but that's not him.
Well, like,
So he sees if they continued on the path. I think he knows it'd be bad, and so he's trying to educate them, prepare them for the rest of their journey, and put them through these things, and then we'll send them on their way when it's their time. I hope for the best.
I related to Tom in this moment because one, I feel like they are again. I feel like he and Goldberry are more elemental. They're almost like embodiments of seasonal change. Like they are the drivers and the keepers of the turning of the year type stuff. Like it's old and it does not give a single shit about your day to day. It's got a job to do, and I feel like that's why they were stuck. Is because it was time for Goldberry to sing and like. If the option is to send these lost children into the woods, or you have a captive audience for your insane stories for umpteen days,
That taught them a lot that they needed to know.
I'm great at teaching people things they don't need to know.
This reminded me of the Farmer Maggot chapter.
And also, sometimes your stories take multiple days.
I told you a story to provide context for my point, which is coming.
How many days has it been since we started this podcast?
I was trying to remember if it's been 1 or 3 hours.
I don't know. Pat started talking and I felt like a week went by.
Oh, jeez.
I'm just kidding.
That's okay, because you know what? I got 2 weeks more.
Well, on that note, last thing I'm going to say about the stories, me personally, is one of my favorite parts was when he finally talked about the hearts of the trees.
Oh, it was terrifying.
And I don't know about you, but I've always seen trees and nature in general as loving and beautiful and
Peaceful.
more pure and peaceful than humanity. And in this world, their hearts were often dark and strange and filled with a hatred of things that go free upon the earth. I was like, what? And then everything from there is just how terrible these fucking trees are.
But it was also like kind of justified. It's like they're destroyers. They cut, they burn,
They
they
gnaw.
break.
Trees have a history.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're around
They've
for
been
long
victims.
enough,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're around for long enough, things get shitty to you.
And I think that's a great segue into when he asked Frodo for the ring.
That horrified me.
Right?
I got big worried.
I was
Yep.
nervous.
Show me
in
the
this.
precious ring. And Frodo did. Like, what came over him?
Yeah, and
he
I
was
think-
being manipulated.
He's also really bad at secrets. Goodbye.
So one of my favorite parts about that is not only does he put the ring on and literally nothing happens, and then he laughs. He throws it up in the air, catches it, and takes his blue eye and goes, ooh. And it's like they haven't even seen the Eye of Sauron yet, and he's mocking it.
Yeah.
He knows of it because he mentioned earlier that he was there when Sauron like rode in. He saw him show up. So it's crazy to me that like in that moment he has such little respect, fear, or even like care for it. He's mocking it outright, making fun of the thing that's trying to destroy the entire earth.
Do you think he knows about it yet?
100%. He was there when it was created. He admits that.
He says specifically like I was here before the Dark Lord came.
Sauron is the most evil thing in this world. And this guy just outright blatantly laughing at his vast creation that made him this powerful and then mocks it with his own eyeball.
And the hobbits have no idea what
And they're
he's
just
referring
staring at
to.
they're just saying he did a
Yeah.
comical display. Like they're just kind of like, what is this man doing now?
Well, this goes back to what I was saying, which is Tom is the master of fear, and he's not afraid of things. Why? And the answer that I'm deriving from this is that because Tom is not of this world.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
He's not.
We all agree on
And
that.
If he is not of this world, then he is not of the rules of the world and revolving around being alive or being dead, which means that
True.
anything
He's
that is a
timeless.
thret is not a threat to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
Probably
that,
nothing can
like,
kill him.
that's my, like,
Yeah.
if I'm going to distill Tom Bombadil down to when we keep saying, like, what is he? Who is he? What he is eldest great. That's a great description of what he is. But I think to me, it's like to understand really how this character functions, he has to be above everything.
I think that when you want to really drill into what is Tom Bombadil and who is Tom Bombadil, I hate him.
Why?
So why do you hate him?
Yeah, why? Let's get into it. Why do you hate Tom so much?
So you can't really appreciate Tom Bombadil until we get past Tom Bombadil.
Okay.
Until we move beyond this chapter. No, really though, right? Like it's not. I don't think it's an overstatement to say that he is an anomaly in the story so far.
Yeah.
And I promise you that he will persist in that way. Now we'll meet other things that don't really fit. We'll meet a shitload of stuff for everybody, for people who are basing their opinions and their experiences based on the movies. We're gonna meet a bunch of shit that has no appearances in the movies, but are these like weird detours that just all they do is like they're a quick cut into the world and into what else there is. And Tom Bombadil is two things. He is frustrating to read.
I disagree respectfully.
Okay. I mean that's fair. That is. But he's also this conduit for deep, frustratingly ambiguous story statements. So like
Yes. I think that's why I didn't enjoy this chapter. Like, ambiguous is the right word. So much was said and so little was revealed.
That's why I love it. I love ambiguous stuff that the writer calls on you to put on your own or put into it your own knowledge and life experiences and things that you know from other worlds and other literature. And it makes everything so connected. And so as we see, each person's get their own individual thing out of it. And that to me is really good writing.
okay.
That feels like a nice transition point to jump into food for thought.
Yay.
All right. Sounds
I'm
good.
starving from the very long quests we've been surviving on the dirt road.
That's
with
right.
just stories to keep us full.
Why is there a cork on
Let
my
us
fork?
have food and drink.
Alrighty.
He sang it into being.
Perfect.
But you did all the work. Classic Tom
did.
Bombadil.
So, for this week's food for thought, I have attempted to my best ability to recreate the meal that they ate in the House of Tom Bombadil.
It looks extremely ominous.
Good.
This
So-
looks so freaking good.
It's also
Good.
beautiful. I love
Tell
how
us
it's
what we got.
arranged.
Let's talk through it a little bit here.
According to the text, they had yellow cream and honeycomb and white bread and butter, milk, cheese, and green herbs and ripe berries.
Nice.
I decided to skip the milk.
Why?
Well, I don't know. We've got some lactose intolerance going on here.
More for me.
In terms of yellow cream, I had to sort of look up what that meant.
She's worried about the lactose intolerance, but there's 3 kinds of
There's
cheese.
a lot of dairy here, but I think you guys are better with dairy than straight milk. Anyway,
God
I had
bless
to
you,
look up what
Christopher.
yellow cream meant, and I believe it's clotted cream. So
You
there we
didn't
have
Google
it.
yellow cream, did you? Oh, that's a rough Google.
Oh no!
But
That's a rough Google.
I believe I had it in
Now
more
we know
of a
Laura's
context.
nightmare.
Yeah, like a food context, so nothing bad happened.
Ew! I feel bad about that.
Oh, hush. Yeah, I wanted to make the clotted cream from scratch, but I could not find the correct ingredients to do it, which was a little disappointing. So instead, I made some bread from scratch.
Okay.
Wow.
So this
You
one,
made this bread?
This
Yeah.
one is
Oh,
homemade,
get ready,
and this
bro.
one is from Wegmans.
All right, so we've got our plates. Everybody did how they want theirs to be plated.
I want more
Pat got a
potatoes.
lot,
I want more potatoes.
which makes sense now when we get pizzas and we split it, why we always end up short quicker. That makes sense now.
Pat loves carbs.
Let's go for
Carbohydrates.
this. I'm eager to dive in. You guys ready?
Yep.
So ready.
I've got so
And
many
wait, Laura, what is this called?
combinations.
Wait, Chris, are you just putting everything on?
You
How
combined
are we
everything in
doing?
one.
No, how are we doing this?
I'm
though?
eating it.
Oh, wait.
We're all about to enjoy the wrath of Tom Bombadil's
River Woman.
dinner served.
It's either going to work out great in the end or really terrible, like
right.
some of us are worried about.
Cheers
Cheers.
to rainwater.
The homemade bread is amazing. Thank you.
The bread is so fucking good.
Thanks. I'll share the recipe. It's the easiest bread you'll ever make. It is.
Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
No, I can't. I love it too
The
much.
clotted cream with the Irish butter is so good.
I gotta try. Wait,
have to
so
try
is
that.
that like a? Should I be combining that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Take everything on your plate and put it on the roll.
What roll?
Not roll, the bread.
I want to say you're an uncultured heathen, but also it looks like a fun idea.
You can say that, but I've traveled the world. And I've literally been cultured by all of the cultures.
Man. Well, I've been all
There's
the way.
one continent left I haven't been on.
Is it Antarctica?
There's 2 continents. If Tom served me this, 100%, I'd be sleeping over. But luckily, I do not hear the call of the old willow tree, and so I'm free to leave after this, which is nice.
I don't know why I'm like covering my mouth because I'm just chewing into the microphone.
It's worse.
You shouldn't do that.
All right, I'm going to put this horse down.
This pony.
I'll put this pony down now.
Aww.
Join us next week as we discuss chapter 8, which is called
Fog on the Barrow Downs.
Fog on the
Right?
Barrow Down.
Did I say it wrong?
I don't know why that was so funny.
Pat died.
I need a breath because I heard fuck on the barrel.
Is it the fog or just fog? That's what I forget.
It's fog.
Okay.
It's definitely
Fog
not.
on the Barrow
I'm just gonna-
Downs.
Fog on the Burrow Downs. Nope, I said it wrong.
But okay,
Try
fine,
again.
but you can
Borrow.
It's a cut.
Fog on the Barrow Downs.
Barrow Downs.
Oh my god. I can't stop.
Barrow.
Barrow. Okay, sorry.
Right.
Fog on the Barrow Downs.
Thank you so much for watching, for listening, for being a part of our journey. We hope that we are helping with your journey through the books. Make sure you go online and give us a follow on social media. We would love that. The more people that, kind of interact with our pages, the more people get a chance to, hear about this journey that we're taking right now and maybe spread some joy through the world. If you know somebody who's interested in starting from the beginning, give them a share. And then you guys can talk shit with each other on the weekends when you get together. This has been another wonderful, lovely episode of Fool of a Took. I'm so happy to be here with you all. But I am more happy to get the fuck out of Tom Bombadil's house and into the Barrow Downs.
That might be worse.
That's actually a bad place.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.